and welcome to the Dr. Randy Persaud Show. I'm Dr. Randy Persaud. With me today is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Dr. Paloma Mohamed Martin. Welcome, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you. Welcome to you as well.
And it's good to have you. You are the head of our premier education institution at the time when Guyana is going through massive economic, social, and cultural transformation. It has to be both an opportunity and a responsibility for the institution that you head to help move Guyana forward in preparing young professionals and moving them into the economy to construct not only their own good personal lives, but also to contribute to the development of Guyana. It must be a very exciting time for you. How is it?
It is exciting. It's a privilege and it's a challenge at times, as you would imagine. But the University of Guyana was created in 1963, before we became a state, to do exactly what it's trying to do now, which is to create the workforce with a certain mental attitude, a certain a nationalistic orientation to build this country. If you read the documents from the Hansard for the debate that was done around the setting up of the University of Guyana, it would, fill you with tears, because it's pretty much as if they were seeing way into 60 years into the future. So yes, it is a tremendous job, sometimes a terrifying one, because of the responsibility that we all have in the university, not only me, to fulfill this ideal and to support Guyana at what is a very optimistic time indeed. Yes.
It is indeed. And the university has been growing from strength to strength. You have now, I think, in excess of like 22,000 graduates. Am I right, or is
we
it
have
more?
65,000.
65,000.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! So wow. That's way better than I thought.
Yeah.
65,000.
Yes, we've been around for 61 years, and for the past, I would say 10, 15 years, we've been graduating upwards of 2,000, 3,000 students.
Of course.
Yes,
and the enrollment now is what? Is
11,900, just around 11,900, 12,000. Yeah.
That's a good size university by international standards.
Yes.
And faculty, what's your faculty count?
Faculty is about 900 and support staff about 800.
So you definitely then are among the largest employers, quite possibly the largest.
We are the largest
employer in Guyana.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You have surpassed Gaisuco, I believe.
I don't know. I don't think so. Guys, Sukor's employment is in the thousands, or used to be in the thousands, multiple 14,000.
That's right. They are
now,
about 8,000. I think they're about 8,000 now. Yeah, that's correct. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So University of Guyana then is deeply involved in the development of this country, both pre-oil, but especially now.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we go through some of the departments, and you can provide us with an update on how things are doing.
Sure.
I heard President Ali just days ago on an interview. He said, "Bring me an engineer that doesn't have a job, and we will get him employed or her employed, essentially within 48 hours."
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, how is the engineering department doing at UG?
Yes, engineering, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, which produces 5 different types of engineers for the country and elsewhere, is one of the fastest growing. It had been basically neglected for donkey's years because we couldn't absorb the number of engineers, and now we can't produce enough engineers. So we have trebled the number of engineers that we were producing since 2020. But still, that's not enough, because they're getting absorbed even before they graduate into the international private sector. And the local private sector is losing them, the government sector is losing them, and of course UG is also losing our own people that we're employing. So the plan is to expand the labs which is really the big constraint that we have. We're
Constraint in terms of like
of space.
Okay, of space, right.
Because we don't have a paucity of applicants. Since 2016, when oil was announced as being here in exploitable, numbers or amounts, we saw a dramatic increase in applications, especially among women and girls, which is really cool. And we started to increase the numbers of intake, but that's still not enough.
What's the basic qualification?
Don't ask
to get in.
Yeah, to get into. I might be a little wrong on this because the registrar's purview, but I know for engineering you must have maths, you must have English, you must have physics, and this is the big thing.
Yeah.
You must have, I think, chemistry. Or one of the integrated sciences.
And you must have at least perhaps a grade 2 and better?
At grade 3 and above.
Grade 3 and
but
above.
Because we use a ranking system in the university, mostly, and I'll tell you why I say mostly, usually what they do is they take all the applicants, they rank them, and those, if they're taking in, let us say, 50, and we have 100, they rank them based on qualifications, experience, etc., and then they cut off at the 50. Since my administration at the university, we've created this thing called an underserved policy. And the underserved policy is for students who are coming from regions 1, 2, 8, and 9, because usually they don't have the same level of performance as those in the coastal regions.
Right.
It meant that they would be locked out.
Okay.
So what we did is we keep a percentage for them. So they have a separate list. So if you're from those areas, you have a separate list, and at the top of those lists come in with the others, so that we make sure that students from all across the country who are able and want to study in these areas, they actually get in as well. But still, we still have maybe 50% of the good students still not able to get in because of the space constraint. What we're doing now, though, some exciting stuff this year. You would have seen we started the year, ended the year, I forgot we're in January. Ended the year last year with a project that from GGI, the Greater Guyana Initiative, to create a new science building, which is purpose-built with labs, but also that project has 2 other phases to extend the labs that we already have. So that's going to be done in.
Do you have the funding for that?
Yeah, we have the funding from Greater Guyana Initiative for it.
Yeah.
We announced it in the papers and turned the sod in December. I think, sometime around the 15th or 14th or something like that. And also to create some new lab space. So that's going to be done in the middle by the middle of this year. So those bids are out and everything already. However, the thing that I find very exciting, because we also need to talk about Berbice and how to make sure
the Tain campus.
The Tain campus. How to ensure that the calls that we've been getting from the community in Berbice for engineering and things like that to be offered on the campus, not for them to have to come down to town. We're also working with a big project now on virtual reality training, immersive virtual reality. So it cuts down the amount of time we have to spend in labs by getting the applicant or the student to do processes that require repetition. So they learn the process during virtual reality, and then they come into the labs afterwards. So it allows us to really speed up and escalate exactly how many people we can train at once. They can be in different places because it's device agnostic. They can have it on their phone wherever. And it is also very individualistic, because it means that if we set the bar at 90, that you have to get a grade of 90, you have to repeat this over and over until you get to 90.
I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
The program, the special seats set aside for those students who come from, regions where they don't have the underserved areas. I want to be careful how I ask about this, because it is always, the intention is good, the public policy part of it, obviously, it's a national commitment. When you bring those students who say, they probably did not reach the standard cutoff.
No,
Or they have?
No, they would have reached. They have to have the qualifications. It's not that they don't have the qualifications.
Okay.
If they don't have the qualifications, they can't get in. But they might be at number 75. Right? And the reason why we knew that this was happening is because when we looked, I'm a very, very systems-oriented person. I don't make any decision unless I have data.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
trained scientist, so
Right.
that's how we make decisions in UG at this moment. So we look at the trend data across the last 15, 20 years
Okay.
and saw that while this country had 10 regions, right, the number of students who were from those particular areas that I spoke about was less than 2%.
I see.
Consistently.
Right.
And when we look back at what it was not that they were not getting the entry requirements, but their entry requirements might have been on the lower side. So, for instance, the ones who are coming from, let us say, the top schools in Georgetown, they have better resources for physics and chemistry and those things. They have labs, they have lessons, they have all kinds of things. So they will always get 1s and 2s and 3s. And if that's your only criterion, that means that that's really the only set of people who will be allowed into these programs. And the regions which need their own engineers, they have their own problems, you need people there to do work and so on, they will get no one, even though they might get a grade 2 or a grade 3, right? And the other thing we looked at is the performance. So a lot of times students come in to universities, and universities all over the world are talking about this now. They have a whole set of grade 1s. Then they come into the university, and then alongside a student who might have a mixed bag, they might have some 1s, 2s, some 3s. The student with 1s, 2s, and 3s might outperform them in the long run, right? So the scholastic yardstick, especially at the level of 15, 16, 17-year-olds, is not the only one that we use. And what we've been finding is that it's working. For instance, this year, now our dental school has been around for 17, 18 years. This year is the first year we're going to graduate an indigenous dentist. First year.
Right.
And the only reason why that happened is because we have this program, which not only allows them to come in, we also stay with them. It's almost like if it's a foreign student. We stay with them, we look after them, we make sure that if they need anything, they stay with the program. Because one of the things that has happened in the past is that these students are very challenged when they come out to town to classes. They don't have the same food, the network is difficult. If they want something happens with their family, they leave everything and they go without saying anything. They disappear, they come back in 2 years. Universities don't work like that. So we've had to really create a kind of a welfare system around students who we know. Once we see that they're on the application, that's where they're from.
Yeah.
We immediately start to look at them and let them know that if anything is wrong, let them come. If they have a problem with a grade, if they tooth is hurting them, if they got to go into the hospital, come.
A total
so
system.
Yeah. So they stay in the program, and we're seeing some results. We're seeing some teachers, a lot of teachers from those areas. We want some more doctors because, nobody from town wants to go in those areas.
Right,
so
I understand.
they have to be indigenous to those areas.
You mentioned Tain.
Yeah.
They're building an oil and gas and tourism school there.
Yes.
Is it a part of UG, or
No,
it's
not
not
as
a
far
part
as I
of
know.
UG?
No, it's not a part of UG.
Do you
It's
expect that there will be some kind of relationship
Of course.
building
Of course.
as
of
things
course.
proceed?
Yeah, of course there'll be relationships. Listen, the country, based on the data that you read. So if you're using World Bank data, you're looking at something like about 17 to 20,000 people a year, right? If the economy keeps
Correct.
going.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Roger Hussein's earlier data, he puts it at a little higher, right? But we know that somewhere between 10 and 15,000 people across the country in various disciplines are going to be needed.
Professionals.
Professionals,
Yes.
right? And we're not talking about artisans now. We're just talking
Yeah.
about university level trained people.
Economists, accountants.
Yes, economies, accountants, tax people, lawyers,
right, right.
Negotiators,
Yes.
computer people, human resources, health and safety, medical. This is a long value chain,
Yeah.
right? With about 1,000 different jobs in between, right?
Correct.
At different
Yeah.
levels. So UG is producing 3,500, 3,700, right? You still need the technical institutes. You still need, and we are not producing necessarily specialists. Our engineering program is a first degree program. So if you want a specialist, you need that now to take that person
Yeah.
and put them, which is what the oil and gas industry is doing. They're taking our basic trained engineers with the first degree and putting them through these very specialized programs all over the place. So I would expect that this is something. We're not talking about even agriculture and food yet.
Yes.
Right? Which is
Yes.
UG is very big on agriculture, environment, and
Correct.
food. Our faculty for earth and environmental sciences is number 5 in the world. Number 5. People don't know this, right? So this is a point of pride for Guyana, of course, for UG. And Guyana is big on this, as you know, our low carbon development strategy, green strategy, all of those things,
Right.
very important to the planet, right? So there will be synergy already. We talk with Professor Sankat Singh, who is an old friend and who is in charge of that project. You know, we talk all the time. Well, not all the time, but when we see each other.
Yes, of course.
And we expect that we will be supporting the general movement and needs in the region. Our campus at Tain is small, right? It's fairly small. So that's a welcome addition.
Absolutely. You mentioned our green strategy, our low carbon development strategy. How is the environmental studies department doing?
Yes, well, as I said just now, they're number 5 in the world.
Yes.
We have Professor, she just became Professor Paulette Bino. She just got her professorship in December, late December, and we haven't announced it publicly. I guess this is she knows, but the rest of the country doesn't know yet.
Well, this is now announced.
Yeah. But you know, as you know, she's a founder of that faculty, and has been a climate negotiator. Has been on every international thing that the region and the world has had, and in a very prominent position representing Guyana,
Right.
sometimes representing the region. We have climate scientists there who are doing wonderful things. We do work with NASA, for instance. People don't know this, and our work with NASA involves mapping areas using geospatial, but satellite data in particular to map changes on the coast, map changes internally. We have Professor Oye Doughton, who has just produced a very, very significant, not unveiled yet, but prototyped internally, a significant dashboard, which is basically collecting all of the data from all of the agencies in our country that has climate data, that has spatial data on one dashboard. So lands and surveys, etc., etc. And when
is this proprietary stuff, or is it out for public, or
it's for the public.
It's for the public.
We have done it for the public. It was done under a research grant.
Okay.
But it's from the Greater Guyana Initiative and the university.
Okay.
So we now have to unveil it for the public. But everything, University of Guyana is a state university.
Right.
So whatever we do is for the country. We
Correct.
don't do anything for ourselves.
I understand.
Even though, of course, the researchers, as you know, you're an academic, will get a benefit, which their promotion or whatever. But the work we do is for the country. That's what we were created for.
Now, Tain is not only about oil and gas, it's also about tourism.
Yes.
And talk to anyone who comes to Guyana, and they will tell you that it's the one area that we really need to do a lot of work in across the tourist spectrum in the services. What's going on at UG with this?
Yeah, so the university has a tourism and hospitality program, and it is cited in the School for Business, SEBI.
Okay.
It's been going on for a long time, but it has not been focused on hotel hospitality. It's been focused on biodiversity and environmental hospitality and management. So this hotel school is very, very necessary and needed.
Right.
And so we look forward to it. It should have been sited at UG. Now it's in Berbice. We're kind of happy about that. We're running out of land. But also we know that in order to drive people to Berbice, to diversify that economy, you need to put different things there. And I'm happy with that because we are also trying to diversify our offerings at Tain. So, for instance, we're about to launch our Marine Institute. Yeah, at Tain.
At Tain,
yeah.
oh, okay.
I had to fight to do this.
So it will no longer simply be a satellite campus. It's going to be a
full campus.
Full-fledged.
It has to be a full campus, and we have to put things there that are really organic to the environment. And so just like how people have to travel to Georgetown to study, they have to travel to Tain to study certain things. So marine biology, river systems, marine ecology, river economies, porting, those kinds of things that we will offer in that center. That's where it's going to be. So you want to know those things. And this is not only for the oil and gas sector. This is for the agriculture sector. Because, export of our produce and so on is a very, very significant area. And Berbice is a big, big producer of a lot of agriculture and fishing as fisheries as well. So this year is an exciting year for Berbice.
It's exciting also in another way, because before getting faculty and other trained personnel to go out to Berbice or perhaps even Linden and Bartica and Anna Regina and so on, it's a very difficult proposition. But you've got quite a lot that's going on right over the bridge at Palmyra. You go there, they're building a stadium, they're building a hotel.
Yes.
I think the area is earmarked for whenever an oil refinery comes on board.
There too.
Stadium.
Yeah.
They're building a road all the way to Molson Creek.
And there's a port, couple ports.
And a port, right.
Ports,
indeed. And so it would be easier in a way with the tourist training hospitality school, with the oil and gas, with UG expansion. You're having a whole catchment of development, an integrated kind of economic node.
Yes.
That's going to be very exciting. Employment generating,
income generating,
right? And it will really add quite a lot to the modernization of the area, correct?
Yeah. Well, we're not only thinking of what's there. We're thinking of how the Tain campus and how Berbice is situated. The president has spoken about the Golden Corridor. So Suriname, French Guyana, right? And Brazil at certain
the Guyana
parts
Shield.
The Guyana Shield. We signed a concordat on the Guyana Shield in French Guyana in December 2022.
Okay.
For these four universities to work together to develop areas of interest in those areas. And one of the things that was very significant about that is that what Suriname, Anton de Kom University doesn't have and is requiring from us. How we're working with French Guyana, of course, that have big French universities and research engine behind them.
Of course.
But we have some things to offer. We have indigenous studies. I keep saying University of Guyana is the only university in this entire region that has a unit of an Amerindian studies unit.
Yeah.
Right? And it is over 30 years old.
Yes.
Right? And this is not an insignificant thing, thinking about what's happening in the world. So we have things to offer, so we work together. But outside of the Golden Corridor, where is Berbice situated? You have Oriala. You have Region 9, Region 8. Once they start to open up that road that is being talked about to come through the back there, right? You have really those students who we think now are underserved in Region 8, 9, because it's difficult. They have to come to Georgetown. That's going to be easier.
The whole communications infrastructure is going to revolutionize things, right?
Yes. So that's what we know, and that's what we're planning for, right? And what we're hoping for. But outside of that, these specialized areas where people have to study specific things, agriculture, right? Agriculture is a very big one. I'm very big on technology.
Okay.
And the agricultural technologies that are in the world today, and some of the problems that we have, that our scientists are working on, genetic reengineering of some of the species, and all of those things that UG is doing, right? Already, I think that our sin is that we have not done a good job about talking about those things publicly, because our people just want to do their work. They don't want to.
and so it's good that you're here. Let's talk about medicine. UG has actually contributed quite a lot in this area. How is medicine doing at UG?
Medicine is doing fabulously, fabulously. We're about to go into an accreditation round in the next couple of months. As you know, our medical school is accredited. It's been so for a long time.
Yeah.
And they offer over 15 specialties. They have just started a PhD in anesthesiology with Georgetown Hospital.
I did not know that.
Yes,
that is amazing.
Yes, and they have diversified their programs. One of the big stories that is going to come out in the next couple of weeks is going to be the launch of 3 important laboratories in the university. 2 of them will be with in the College of Medical Sciences.
Okay.
One of them is a genetics lab, right, which allows us to sequence almost every single thing. All right. The other one
that is really
that
good
is
news.
exciting.
Yeah, that
right?
is. Yeah.
Because what people don't know is that we house the Ark of the country at the university. Our biodiversity center is the national repository for all biodiversity species, so fauna and flora. We have them physically, and what these labs are allowing us to do now is to genetically sequence all of those, store the genetic material, so that should something happen, we should be able to in the future re-engineer or do different things. But in the College of Medical Sciences, the exciting lab is the microbiology lab. When we had COVID, we had scientists who knew how to sequence and kind of isolate the thing. We didn't have the hermeneutically sealed labs, because you're dealing with highly difficult and dangerous things. But we didn't have the sequencers. We did not have the material. We now have those on the campus. We're working on building the specialized, secured, sealed labs, so that next time there's a zoonotic or any other disease, we can isolate those in country. I think the Ministry of Health also has just gotten some like a couple of months ago. So UG will be the second place. Instead of having to send these things to all over the place, you respond much faster, and you'll also be able to detect localized diseases and so on much faster. So that this year, Prof, we are really looking at ramping up our research side.
This is truly exciting, and I'm delighted to hear that there's going to be a doctoral program.
It started already.
It started already. That is fantastic. If I may, I think I mentioned to you once. Now that I'm finding out the role that the Biodiversity Center is playing, I think I mentioned to you before. I was the World Bank rep on the committee when that Biodiversity Center was being built, and
you'll be
I was
very proud.
Very happy to have served
You must come
for,
and have
for
a look
5
at
years.
it.
I should. You do know that I teach. Of course you do.
Of course I know you teach.
I teach at UG. You did. So I've been part of UG, and it's been very exciting. And I will come around to have a look at the Biodiversity Center. So medicine, when all is said and done, what is development about other than taking care of people's health? And
educating them.
And educating them, right? So, but let's go from a practical point of view. I mean, medicine is both, you have the practical side where you train doctors to treat patients, but you also educate the public about their own health and safety, and you're doing both of those. So, do we see increasing specialization in medicine
Absolutely.
at UG?
Yeah.
What do we? I know more and more surgeries are being done.
Yes.
You have an optometry center?
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, the optometry center is wonderful. Many of the students who graduate from there are opening up all these optometry centers around the country, and increasingly we're seeing the nexus between entrepreneurship and medicine.
Excellent.
Right? So not everybody is looking to go into public practice. A lot of them are from other countries in the Caribbean and so on. So we do have an optometry center. We have audiology, pharmacy, audiology, gynecology, obstetrics, pediatrics, what they call allied health, so things like the genetics, things like the physiotherapy, anesthesiology, psychiatry, mental health nursing, pediatric nursing, surgical nursing, and we have a master's in surgery.
All of this is going on at the University of Guyana.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The psychiatry part, there is, we know Guyana has a very high suicide rate.
Yeah.
And judging from what I read in the papers every day, I don't know. There's a fair bit of, people get into commit violence sometimes very easily. I mean, people playing. I read a story with some young people were playing dominoes, and it ended up in someone being killed. I've been told that there's a shortage of psychiatrists in Guyana. Is UG working on that?
Yeah. So there is a shortage of mental health.
Yes, that's what I meant.
So psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health nurses, social workers, even in specific areas. We knew this since about 2014, 2015, when PAHU published their report. My colleague and friend who I went to school with, Dr. Natalie Caldera, who's a psychologist working in the States, she came down and did that work. And because we knew that, we did a couple of things. We responded right away with support from government, from PAHU, and from UNICEF, and from the EU as well. And from, of course, our colleagues overseas, and Georgetown Public Hospital, who's a great partner, right? So we started our psychology program at the university.
Okay.
So we actually have a building now, which is called Corporate. It's a College of Behavioral Sciences and Research. So they teach the psychology, the Masters in Clinical Psychology, General Psychology. The psychiatry program was started in the College of Medicine, and this is I think they graduated their second batch last year. So I think they said we needed 700 to 900 practitioners. Then the mental health nursing.
700 to 900.
Yeah. The mental health nursing graduated their first batch this last graduation here, because it took 4 years to train them.
Excellent.
So I think we have whittled that 900, 700 down to maybe about 400 now, if you put all the disciplines together.
How about the distribution? Are you getting trained staff from what you know to go out into those underserved areas as well?
Well, they have to. Anybody who's in the medical sciences and certainly in psychology, there's a practicum and internship aspect.
Okay.
The problem in some areas is that you don't have the necessary conditions for them to do proper practicum work. But again, this is something that the Ministry of Health is actively working on.
Right.
If you've seen what they're saying about doing this work. So we're doing the training, they're doing the systems part, getting the facilities ready and so on.
Right, because you need an infrastructure.
To absorb that.
You just don't sit in a room right? Yeah.
No, and then you also have to have all kinds, you have to have people to debrief, you have to have recording, you have to have confidentiality, you have to have people to look after these people after you diagnose and what you do, all kinds of things. But UG also offers counseling services, you may not know this also, but we have the only school in the Caribbean, which is a Center for Excellence in Early Childhood Teaching and Learning, that is integrating students, children from 3 months old to 7 years old, who have learning disabilities, with students who
When you say integrate, how do you mean?
So students who have learning disabilities are integrated and taught together with students who are what they call typical. So
at the university?
Yeah. We have a building that was launched. Minister launched it. Minister Manichan launched it with UNICEF a year ago. So it's a year.
And is it free of charge or is there a fee?
The ministry sends students.
So they cover it.
They cover. The government covers, and there's a small percentage of students from the university with parents at the university, so they have to pay. They pay, but the others the government covers. And that school just was internationally certified by Canadian International Agency as the only school and internationally on top of the world. But it's also a research center. So a lot of the work on early childhood is coming out of that center, and they're published, right? They're publishing 2 articles every month or so on what they're learning about autism in our context, the treatment of autism, other kinds of dyslexia, other kinds of learning disabilities among small children. And of course, they're working very closely with Cyril Potter and so on, because we train our teachers, special ed teachers, in some regards in that school.
Right. I was going to ask
Yeah.
you about
Yeah.
Serpat. So, education is big at UG,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The education
Yeah, yeah,
department.
yeah. It's a
Tell
big-
us a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the Faculty of Education and Humanities is the second largest faculty in the university, and that's pretty much because we train basically most of the teachers coming out of Cyril Potters.
Yeah.
So there's a 2+2. They train there for 2 years. They come to us to specialize for 2 other years, and so we do that. But one of the big things that the big stories that it was in the papers, but I don't think the impact of it is really understood. So Minister Malik Chan asked us just around early 2021 to put all our teaching for teachers online so that the teachers who had to get time off from school would be able to stay in school because they needed to address this learning gap that happened during COVID. And so we really did that very rapidly, very, very rapidly. And so all our teaching for teachers is online from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now that's stressful for some teachers if they have to travel. So what we've done is really diversified 4 paths. So you can do that in 2 years if you want. You could do it in 3 years. You can do it in 4 years. So if you have, commitments, children, and so on. But the exciting part of that's coming online this year is the teacher innovation department. So that department is looking at the future of education, is looking at technology in education. So this thing about the virtual reality training,
Yeah.
gaming as a way of teaching and training in the future, and all of those kinds of new education pedagogy, that department is basically coming on stream this year. We set it up, but we were focused on getting the teachers online.
So you're
they can
pulling
study.
in AI is becoming
AI, big
an
thing.
important
Big
part
thing.
of
Big
the whole
thing.
regimen.
Yeah, not only AI, but a lot of technology. So AI, UG is one of the first universities in the world and has been leading in AI policy in higher education. We have AI, we did our AI policy, of course it's evolving, since about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
Right? And that policy is online. We've shared it with Cambridge University, who've asked us for this, Commonwealth Universities, International Association of Assessors. We've shared that work with, because a lot of people are afraid of technology. I'm really excited by
Yeah.
new things, and of course, as a change specialist, this is something that's really in the middle of my work as an academic
course.
myself, and so we take a very proactive but responsible position on the use of AI and any technology in the university, right? But we can't have a country that is moving as fast as ours, where we have teachers in schools who don't understand how technology works, cannot transmit that to their students, who are themselves not using the technology, not experimenting with it, not understanding it, and not understanding how they can create policy in their schools and so on, for the use of this technology. Technology is not going away. It's not going back into the box. So if we are training teachers, we have to make sure that they're ready when they go out there. The students know this technology, right?
Smart boards and all.
Oh, that's nowadays. That's
Standard.
that's standard now.
Yeah.
I mean, that used to be fancy 2-3 years ago. That's
True.
nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, you have a new security studies
Oh, yeah.
program there.
Yeah.
Tell us about it a little bit. I think that's the one I'm teaching in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, that one has become now, sadly, very important.
Right.
Given the context that we found ourselves in.
You mean the border
Yeah,
issues?
That's really unfortunate, but at least we have something there that we have the rudiments of, helping to train public service and to think about it. So that is a commissioned program. That program was commissioned. Well, let me speak about the program, and then I'll speak about the institute. So the program was commissioned by the Office of the President itself. So they asked us to, it was Omar, Brigadier Khan, at the time where he was, who asked us to develop a program that would train leadership, like high-level people in a particular way. And we said, okay, we brought the specialists in and we put it together. It was off to a rocky start because it was really fast. Everything they want is really quickly. And so we managed to settle that down. Thankfully, people like you were able to come in and help us with the academic side. we were, I think, fairly good at developing the curriculum, but you needed people with some background and so on to teaching there. But that program is in an institute. And that institute, it's one of 8 institutes that we have on the campus. And that institute is called the Institute for Human Resiliency, Strategic Security and the Future. The future part is where we work with children and youth.
I see.
To basically understand what's happening with the future, how they think about the future, what we can do, how do we need to retool education to kind of get them focused and for what the country and the world needs, because we don't only train people for Guyana, we train for the world.
Indeed.
They could end up anywhere, right? And some of us do, like you, like me, and we come home, right? So that human resiliency, this is also something in which UG has been leading. Because when we hit COVID, we recognized that we understood a good bit about individual resiliency, how persons could kind of overcome severe challenges. But resilient systems was a big gap. And so we said, good, we are going to work with some universities who's interested. We called together a few seminars, whoever was interested came, and we're beginning to work out now a discipline for human resiliency systems. So, climate systems, military and other systems and so on. And that is part of the reason why the university can respond so quickly. Anytime there's a national crisis, right, we can respond very quickly because inside there, they're looking at these things.
Indeed.
Already, and they've been looking at them before we had crisis, The future part, as I talked about the children and youth and so on, and I must speak about our RAISER program at the university. A lot of people don't know this again because it is something that I don't believe in exposing children to the public. I think children must be protected and allowed to grow and be children. So we have a special gifted children's program at the university, where in the summer, 10 children from each region who have done excellent at common entrance in math and science come and spend 2 or 3 weeks at the university on a residential camp. They're taught an accelerated science program, but they also have a co-curriculum program, and by our lecturers in our labs. And the idea is to get them to accelerate, to see if they can write CXC or something or get into college a year ahead of their peers. This is going to be the 3rd year we're doing this. Same children come back every year. The 3rd year we're doing it. And this is something that's very exciting because one of the things that we have to do in the country, I think, is to capture gifted children very early. We're focusing a lot on children who are atypical on the disability side, but the bright children, the children who are gifted from very early in any way, we really have not done anything for them. We have no schools, no programs really that are sustained. So you see somebody top in the country at common entrance, 5-6 years later, where they go, what's wrong, what was happened with them, so we really want to be able on the youth side to really look at both sides, the ones who need support and the ones who need a different type of support that need acceleration, excitation, exposure. So this is a very, very, very it's called the RAISER program.
Okay, well that's a good name for it, cutting edge, right?
Yes.
So let's all of these good things have to be funded.
Yeah.
And we are almost in budget season here, so I gotta ask you, how is UG being treated? You happy with your budget?
No, nobody's ever happy with their budget.
I'm yet to meet a university. I'm yet to meet a university administrator who's happy with.
You ask any government administrator
with their funding. So, one thing I really wanted to ask is that, the big universities overseas. They spend a lot of time fundraising.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at their boards, right?
Yeah.
It's built out in a way around a fundraising kind of structure, not only about academic excellence.
Yeah.
How is UG doing on that front?
I think we're doing okay. We're doing okay because when I was Deputy Vice Chancellor for philanthropy. That was my job. I was the fundraiser.
Right.
The first fundraiser for the university, right? Because nobody else had that job before me. And so I know how to raise funds, and I also know how to deliver.
Okay.
Because raising funds is one thing, but you have to be able to deliver up with the people's money. You can't just take people's
Correct.
money, because you'll never get any more money. So the aspect of raising funds was the easy part. The implementation, because of all kinds of conditional issues, has been challenging, and so we've been able to do that, but with more realistic timelines than we
It's
thought.
not like you just collect and spend.
No,
right?
you got to
Yeah.
wait on contractors. The bigger the project,
Yeah.
this and that, and then for those projects, as you know, philanthropy is a trust, so you have a much higher level of accountability than normal things. You have to do stewardship reports. You have to be in compliant with their regulation, all kinds of things. But we've been good because all of these things that I'm talking about, the labs, the Razor program, the dental school, the medical school stuff, all of those things are not funded from the capital budget, from the government's budget. It's funded from philanthropy and other people.
Private sector in Guyana,
Private
are
sector
they
in Guyana.
are they
Yeah.
adequately
I don't
involved?
Think, I think they're warming up now, and I'll tell you why they're.
Have you
warming
reached
up.
out to them?
Yeah. But we don't have a culture. One of the things that we've had to do was to create a culture of philanthropy.
I
We
understand.
did not have a
I
culture of
understand
philanthropy
that.
in this
I
country,
understand
right?
that, yeah.
But now everybody calls themselves a philanthropist, and I smile. I love it because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah, we got through to them, and people are coming forward. Why are they coming forward? Because they understand the value of the university. When you can't find people to run your business, where are getting them from? You're getting them from this place
That's correct.
that in the past you thought was not important, right? But now everybody's coming because we have to help them.
But philanthropy also helps to build a good society.
Yes, but here's the
Right?
problem. It's philanthropy in our country.
Yeah.
In our country, you do not get the tax breaks that you get in America. And this is one of the things that we are discussing avidly with those in authority. Because if they get the tax break, they will give more, not only to the university, but to their old schools, to anywhere.
Yeah.
But they don't get that. So people overseas find it much more convenient to contribute to UG or to L-Space because they get the tax breaks in Canada and in the US. And that, of course, makes a lot of difference. Instead of paying the tax man, they can get a good value out of it.
Yes.
So we have to do some work on that architecture, and we're doing it. But the University of Guyana Foundation was founded and launched 2 years ago. And this is a separate entity that is working on an endowment for the university.
Excellent.
Which we've never had.
Excellent.
So that means that if something happens, you need to do various things. Coming back to the funding, one of the things that people don't recognize about how UG is funded is that the subvention that we get, which is substantial from the government, only funds about 65% of salaries. It does not fund operational costs. The operational costs are funded from the fees, from services that we could provide, and from gifts.
So what happens when but from next year?
Well, this is the point. That's why I want to make that point now. But this is not something that the government knows that because we've been, really transparent with them about the way in which the thing runs. They know this. And they also know that we collect fees to do various things. And then sometimes they give us money for capital projects like buildings and special projects. But really and truly, to fund the university, you need 3 times what the subvention is, right?
So
I
free
think
tertiary education
Yeah.
is a
it's expensive.
huge, very
Yeah,
huge,
it's expensive.
especially with a much bigger university now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
it's expensive, and especially with other things that have to be funded.
the
as well.
president says is being phased
Yes,
in.
and I think that's sensible.
That's
it has
sensible,
to be
of
sensible.
course.
I don't know what the plan is. That has not been revealed to us yet.
Right.
I read it in the
But it's not
newspaper.
something that could be done in one fell swoop.
If you had a huge amount of money, but
Yeah.
if you didn't, because remember you have to fund other things, right? You have to be very careful about how you introduce that because it's a lot, and then you also have to figure out whether you're going to introduce it for everything, every program. Are you
Everyone?
everyone? Are you going to do it for only first degrees, and then you have to pay for the bachelor's
Right.
and the postgraduate
And law
masters
degree
and masters and the
Dentistry and so on.
professionals
Yeah, yeah.
the PhDs that are on stream
Right.
and all of those. So it's a very complex thing. It's not only about thinking about tuition, right? The academic expense of running a university is what people see is just the tip of the spear, right? There's all of this in the background.
Maintenance infrastructure,
but you're not even
labs,
talking the
maintaining labs.
You know,
right.
you know, reagents. We don't make any of this. So we have to import those for the labs, and if they raise the price in the middle of the year, you got to find the money, or else you can't tell the students you can't do your labs. So anybody who understands universities and a university like UG, which is both a teaching and a research university, we have not even started talking about the funding of research.
Are you allowed as a university, as a public university, to monetize any of your services?
Yes, we do.
And there possibilities there for you to
we work
grow
on
revenue?
Those. Yeah, we do on those. But the problem is this. You have to have a very careful balance between sending your staff who are supposed to teach and look after people's education to then do other things.
Yeah.
Right? Because
there's opportunity cost,
yes,
right?
Yes. So we really have started to rationalize. So we created the enterprise unit about a year ago. And that unit is the one that's really looking and dealing with those things. So if we need a specialty from somebody in the faculty, we ask them for it at a certain time. But we don't want them to be all over the place trying to do all kinds of things, because that's very crazy. And then we also can't control the quality and we can't control cost. So we're doing that. Right? But part of what is necessary is what I call the entrepreneurial university. And that is not, this is something that the universities all over the world have to think about and grapple with. The structure and nature and needs of the human population are going to be very different in 2, 3, 4 years' time. And universities are going to die off very fast, as they've begun to do already, if they do not understand and are not able to adapt to these needs and to skillfully and robustly deliver. And UG, given the role that UG has in this country, because I always say, when there was no money, UG was here. Hopefully there'll always be money.
Yeah.
But if any chaos or anything happens, everybody else will pick themselves up and leave. Yeah. And UG will be here because we're Guyanese, we're national. We are navel string buried.
Right.
And we're created to serve this nation.
And you're here before independence, since 1963. Yeah. Let me ask you this. There are a lot of programs, new programs. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of older programs that have been considerably strengthened.
Yeah.
You've got new labs.
Yeah.
You've got a new security studies program. Mm-hmm. You've got dentistry. You've got law coming.
We have 26 new programs.
26 new programs. Where are you getting the faculty?
Faculty are all over the place. So with a lot of our programs, the theoretical aspects being online, we're able to capitalize on faculty from all over the world, high-level faculty from all over the world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of universities are laying off people all over the world and people are looking for jobs in academia, we're able to capture some of those to come here. Mm-hmm. The problem we're having right now is proper accommodation for overseas staff, which we're trying to address in the medium term because it requires money. And also we have good people like yourselves. A lot of people who are good people came back to the country, are retirees. They don't have to stay here forever. They come, they teach one semester, they go. Or if they want to spend a sabbatical here. And most importantly, and this is my pride and joy, on December 9th to 11th, we graduated 31 new PhDs from Arizona State University under external funding. So I now have in the university 31 new PhDs who are there in 8 or 9 different disciplines. Some of them are research, some of them are administration, some of them...
They did their doctorate
at Arizona State University.
Through the University of Guyana?
we found the funding. They were our faculty who had master's degrees,
I see.
and we sent them out.
Okay.
Next year we'll have.
Did they do an on-residence in Arizona?
on
or
and
no?
off,
On and
blended,
off.
because we couldn't afford to send all of them all the time.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Remember, I started this in COVID, so they were able to be there.
Yeah.
Sometimes and teach online, etc. We gave them time off, and we have 14 more coming out next year from Trent University.
Okay.
Again, under funded program. And we have a couple, one or two from different universities that have given us scholarships.
As
right?
part, yeah.
And of course, the government of Guyana has also given a couple of scholarships as well to staff. So UG is poised at this moment in terms of the staffing. Right?
The 31 that graduated
Yeah.
from Arizona State.
Yeah. You're going to see the newspaper article this
Okay,
weekend.
well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I obviously have friends in that system. Yeah. So I've published colleagues from Arizona State. So it's a fine institution.
Yeah.
Are they mostly in the sciences or?
They are from all the faculties.
All the faculties.
So you have I took about 4 from each faculty.
Okay.
16 of them are PhDs who are in the sciences, hard sciences.
Yeah.
14 of them were from education and leadership. And then you have some others that are mixed. So you have people doing tourism, you're looking at indigenous studies, technologies. So UG is not going to want for people, and most of these are young people, and we have bonded them for a period to make sure that they will stay with us at least until we.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for them in terms of research and publication?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about being with a powerhouse university like Arizona State University. That is, they're number one in research in the entire American system, right?
Arizona State?
Yeah. You go check it out. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. No, go check it.
Number one in what
Number
way?
one, research. They have been doing research for NASA, for national defense, for all these companies, right? And have their research budget is something a huge set of billions of US dollars.
Yeah.
And the issue, as you know, you've taught research PhD students. When you have worked with a student who's an excellent student in a country like Guyana, right? That is so open for research and so rife. And they have their networks already. They have their PhD chairs already. They have the people that they studied with. They have that system, and then they have the other universities. So we expect to see an explosion. Like, for instance, in January, in 2 weeks' time, there is a research a seminar being held on statistics and society, right, with one of the recent graduates and his professors coming here to do that for Guyana. So
excellent.
We're not paying for it, right?
Excellent. Yeah.
So yeah.
We have about a minute left, and I wish we had another hour more to go.
Yeah.
And I really am saying this not a matter of for saying its sake, but you really must come back because we have so much more to talk about. As it stands right now, we have 1 minute left for you to tell us where UG is going next.
Well, UG is fixed its systems. Basically, the last 3 years has been about that. UG is now going to focus on really cutting-edge research and the needs of the nation in the next 2024-2025. The employment issue is a really big issue for us, but also the research issue and the technology issue is a big one for us. So we're here, as we said, the nation's university, the heartbeat of Guyana, the brain of the country, and we take that seriously. It's a privilege. And
the university and also Guyana are very lucky to have you head the university at this time of our country's development. Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you. I'm blessed to do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.